بیش از 96 کشور
سگ خانم
که برگشتار در جهان باید تخصص داده شود دنیا را رها کند. بنابراین امروز در این مراسمی که در ملبورن برگزار شده و هزارها نفر همکاری آمدن هستند که در این محفل اشتراک کنند، صدایشان بلند کنند. زیبایی محفل است که تمام ملت دور هم جمع شدن صدای واحدی مردمشان به خاطر حمایت از نسل کشی هزاره‌های زن اعلان میکنند. ما پیام برای دنیا داریم، برای کسانی که در کنار افغانستان مهاجرت کرده، برای آنها پیام داریم که شما بسیار متوجه بودید، شما در این غفلت کردید در حق مردم افغانستان که مردم افغانستان در گرفتار ساختیم و مردم افغانستان اینا را در حالت گرفتن های خطرناکی که در کل دنیا یک تهدید است امروز در افغانستان این را دنیا باید درک کنید که مردم آزادی افغانستان ایستگاهی خاموش
کشته شدیم منزوی شدیم کشته شدیم تحمل کردیم خواندیم نوشتیم بخشیدیم هرچه کردیم کشته شدیم ما چه کردیم کشته شدیم چه نکردیم کشته شدیم چه نکردیم کشته شدیم سکوت بس برمیخیزیم فریاد میزنیم زنده ترین کشته جهان ماییم میایستیم و استاده میگیم طوفان رد میشویم تا کمترین گوشها بشنوند کورترین چشمها ببینند بیدار میکنیم سردمداران حقوق بشر را در تجمع همنسلانمان در سراسر جهان فریاد بزنیم نسل کشی هزاره ها را متوقف کنید.
شلوغ نمیشه خوارو همین اگه بودن شمبان
رفتم که بخوانم و بسازم وطنم را رفتم که بخوانم و بسازم وطنم را خون کرد کتابم و شکستم قلمم را خون کرد کتابم و شکستم قلمم را من درگیر تحصیلم و سرمشق سوادم در
جهان ماییم بیستیم و استاده طوفان و رد میشویم تا کمترین گوشها بشنوند کورترین چشمها ببینند بیدار میکنیم سردمداران حقوق بشر را در تجمع همنسلانمان در سراسر جهان فریاد بزنیم نسل کشی هزاره ها را متوقف کنید.
فهمیده بشه کمی بگیم هم زیاد دارم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أزل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم
Thank you for your coordination and your collaboration, and thank you for turning up. Thank you for making this event happen. Before we begin, I would like to officially start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we have gathered on today, the Bunurong and Wurundjeri Woiwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. As Hazaras, as people very, very familiar with the deep pains of dispossession, displacement, injustice, persecution, discrimination, it is very important that we pay our respects and acknowledge the deep and dark history of Australia. To our distinguished guests who will be coming here later to speak, you're probably already receiving instructions, but if you could pick a flower from the person in charge right on the side of the stage and put a flower in front of one of the victims who have tragically passed away in the recent attack, and then make your way to the stage before you share a few words with us. Yet another tragedy, yet another vigil. We've come together here once again to mourn those we have lost. This week, around the world, the Hezara people, their friends and allies have come together in solidarity after the most recent attack, again, on Hazara people in Afghanistan that killed 57 young students at the Kaj Learning Center. Each life taken was an aspiring doctor, engineer, scientist, writer, artist, leader who had gathered in a crowded classroom for a practice university exam. Most of them were young Hazara girls who lost their lives. because the attacker detonated himself in the segregated room, a segregation enforced by the Taliban, who banned secondary education for girls after forcibly taking over the country last year. Today, amongst us, we have families and relatives of the victims. Someone has lost a daughter, someone has lost a cousin, someone has lost a friend, someone's neighbor is in a critical condition. Today, we have gathered to mourn and grieve together, to share in each other's pain and agony, but to also raise our voice and say enough. How many more recent attacks are we going to endure? On this day, 9th of October last year, we saw a targeted attack on Hezare Shia worshippers that killed and injured more than 100 people. And we were gathered here not that long ago, only a few months ago, at this exact location after another attack on a Hezara boys' school. We don't want to hold more vigils. We don't want to grieve the death of our young children, our elderly, our men, our women, even unborn children in their mother's womb. Nowhere is safe. No one was spared. Schools, maternity hospitals, mosques, weddings, workplaces, roads, streets, homes. We want to end this. We want to end this genocide. Today we've gathered here as Hazara people once again, as we've taken it to the streets, as you've seen around the world, not just here today, not just in Melbourne, in every major city of Australia, but not just in Australia, in 90 cities across the world, to say enough, to say stop Hazara genocide. We will be sharing that chant and we will be getting you to repeat that later. We've got 3 chants here today. The first one, as you all know already, would be Stop Hazara Genocide. So when we have speakers here, Stop Hazara Genocide! 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 The second chant is Recognize Hazara Genocide. It's critical that these genocidal violence and attacks are recognized as genocide, so then protection can be demanded and granted. The second chant, I would say recognize, you say Hazara Genocide. Recognize Hazara Genocide. Recognize Hazara Genocide. Recognize. 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 The third chant is in Farsi, which you all should be fine with, so I'll deliver it to you all here. It is Hazara Budan Jurum Nes. 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 Which means being a Hazara is not a crime. Don't kill us for being a Hazara. So I'll give that one more go. Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Recognize! 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 Hazara Budan! Hazara Budan! Hazara Budan! Hazara Budan! Thank you. Very big crowd here. I'm sure more than half of you have got smartphones and probably more than half of you have got Twitter. You would be aware of the global hashtag Stop Hezare Genocide campaign. Throughout tonight, maybe even start it now, take a photo, take a video, take a selfie, take a photo of the posters, hold the posters up and post on Twitter with the hashtag Stop Hezare Genocide. You will hear from our speakers later about the global movement that is underway at the moment. Science at Melbourne University. He's a director at the Community Refugee Sponsorship Australia, an organisation I happen to work for, and he is a very, very hardworking advocate for the rights of refugees and asylum seekers in Australia. He'll be sharing with you why we're all gathered here today and what some of the asks of the Australian Hezare community are. Dr. Yunuspur, teşekkür.
Thank you, Shabnam. Let me begin with the respect for the traditional owners of the land that we have gathered today, and pay our respects to their elders present, past, present, and emerging. On behalf of our community, I would like to thank members of Australian Parliament, Legislative Council of Victoria, and the Dandenong Council to come here tonight and to support us in this really difficult time for our community, for our countrymen and women in Afghanistan and around the world. You, I, and we all have come together here for three reasons. We have come together to remember and to respect 56 innocent lives, Hezare young girls who were at Kaj Educational Center to prepare for their university exams. They paid the ultimate sacrifice for education. As someone who survived the Taliban attack in 2016 on the American University of Afghanistan when I was teaching young girls and boys like this 56, I remember the pain and suffering of them and their families and friends. And tonight I call on every one of you that if you have not done, please call their families. About 18 million tonight will go hungry in Afghanistan because they don't have food. They are calling on us to support them, and we're here to make sure that we provide that support. When I witnessed the attack on the American University in Afghanistan, I remember what it meant to call a family who lost a young girl. And why that matters, because barely in Afghanistan, 1 in 5 girls go as far as the Kaj girls who lost their lives. That was the story 20 years ago, and that is even harder today. These girls who lost their lives, remember, they could be the last girls in Afghanistan who could have gone to university. We are in a situation where secondary girls' education have been banned for more than a year. I have been educating girls and boys for 20 years in Afghanistan. Some of the girls who you see there, they've gone to the same school that we provide support for. And it is very difficult for me and for every one of you to know that these people are no longer with us. I call their families, I call their parents, and it hurts. It really hurts to know that they are no longer with us. But we are also here to denounce terrorism of all forms. We're here to stand in global solidarity for people whose life lost because they want to educate their children. That's the life of the Hazaras for the past 20 years. It has been for more than a century that our people have been targeted for no reason of their own fault. We thank every one of you, and we thank every countryman and woman who have stood with us in the past week. Yesterday, 96 cities witnessed one of the most important protests around the world. But I believe that wasn't enough. I believe that wasn't enough because those 96 cities which witnessed thousands of people on the streets, they need 96 million people next week. That's how we can stop terrorism. That's how we can say no to atrocities against the Hazaras. And the week after, we need double the 96 million to stop these atrocities. And to our Member of Parliament, thank you for coming here. I'm here to say that we've got 3 asks and why that is important. 1, we ask you to condemn these atrocities. But we also ask you that when you go next to the Australian Parliament to remember the Hazaras and to make sure that the Australian government keeps its promises to give protection for those people who have been here in uncertainty for more than a decade. And that is really, really important for our community and for all of those individuals, some of them who are here tonight. You are separated from your family. You left Afghanistan to survive, but you're not sure if your family and friends and relatives will be safe tomorrow. And we called it on the Australian government to talk about the Hazaras, not just because of us, but because what is happening to the Hazaras could happen to anyone in the world. It is a global security risk. It is a threat to kill innocent girls who just make to year 12. Millions of people around the world do not go as far as these girls who came to year 12. This global security and risk ask on Australian government and demand the rest of the world to make sure that we preserve peace and security. We preserve peace and security not just for the sake of the fact that they will threaten us on our soils, on our shores. Already these conflicts are in our houses, in our cities, on our streets. We've got Hazara girls and boys in Australia who drop school because their parents cannot help them. They cannot go to university because their parents are busy helping save a life in Afghanistan. This is in our cities and our homes, and that's why we call on Australian government, on everyone who is here tonight, on everyone who will hear us. This is enough. And we want Australian government to protect our children, not because it is a distant conflict. This conflict is with us, we live with it, and all these people who you hear and see, dear Member of Parliament, every one of them, their kids' future is in danger. Not just because they're in Australia, because their families and relatives are at risk. And finally, we ask you, the Australian government, that these lives that have been lost, we can only stop this once we all stand together. I remember the first attack on our mosques, on our education centers, on our cities. If we stood together that time, I am sure that the Kaj girls would have been tonight with us. If we do not stop together tonight, we will lose more girls tomorrow. And finally, we call on the Australian government to make sure that people who are at risk in Afghanistan, that they could be supported. As someone who have advocated for the rights of refugees and asylum seekers for many years, we have got people in Australia on asylum protection that unfortunately have no right to work for the past 7 years. At the end, I would like to thank again every one of you who have come together here to share your support. And I also again to thank all members of the Australian government who are here. You give us strength, you give us courage. And to all our countrymen and women who are here tonight, the non-Hazaras, please stand together with us, otherwise you will be tomorrow another victim. And we will stand with you at difficult times like this. That's how we can say no to terrorism. And I hope that that continues from today, and we will see the end of this suffering for everyone in Afghanistan, around the world, and outside Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yunus Shakur. Friends, we're gathered in the city of Greater Dandenong. It's probably no news to the mayor of the Greater Dandenong how strong and how powerful and how contributing the Victorian Hazara community are. But probably also not news that other Hazara community members from all parts of Victoria have made quite a trek to get here today. From the west of Victoria, from the north of Victoria, all the way here. That's at least an hour and a half of driving. Add weekend traffic, probably 2 hours, to say loud and clear what it is that we're concerned about and what we want. I would like to invite Dandenong Mayor, or the City of Greater Dandenong Mayor, Mr. Jim Memeti, to come here and welcome us to his city and say a few words of solidarity.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge the dignitaries who are with us this evening. Mr. Julian Hill, Federal Member for Bruce. Ms. Cassandra Fernando, Federal Member for Holt. Ms. Michelle Anada Raja, Federal Member for Higgins. Ms. Monique Ryan, Federal Member for Kooyong. Ms. Zoe Daniel, Member for Goldstein. Councillors Deputy Mayor Eden Foster and Councillor Rhonda Garrard. Community leaders and members of the Hazara community, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we are gathered in Harmony Square, united for search for peace. We are questioning why such horrific acts of terrorism and violence continue to occur. We have all been left wondering why innocent lives continue to be lost, and we pray for those who sustain injuries and whose lives have been forever affected by this tragedy. The City of Greater Dandenong is Australia's most multicultural municipality. It is among the most vibrant and culturally diverse cities in our country. As Mayor, I am deeply aware of the strength that people of different nations and cultural backgrounds draw from a shared purpose, from common values, and from mutual respect. Tonight, we are united in condemning these senseless acts of violence and in sharing a hope for peace, tolerance, and acceptance. Thank you for standing together as a community this evening in support of our Hezare brothers and sisters, and to call for Stop Hezare Genocide. I will conclude with a poem by Sadi Shirazi. Human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain. Thank you. Stop Hezare Genocide.
Recognize. 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 Hezare budan. Hezare budan. Hezare budan. Hezare budan. Stop Hezare Genocide. Stop Hezare Genocide. Stop Hezare Genocide. Thank you, Mr. Memeti, for welcoming us, but also for